I like that because I'd read that whole thing and I read it completely wrong. So that's cool. I'm glad you helped me with that because I was fully off the mark with that one. But that's decent. Welcome to the Bible in 1 Year podcast, brought to you by two Brits and aBible. This is day 55, and we're going to be covering Numbers 31 and 32.
In Numbers 31, the Lord commands Israel to war against Midian. Israel kills all males and adult females and destroys the cities and takes over property. And in Numbers 32, the children of Reuben and Gad request land for cattle on this side of the Jordan. And if the request is granted, the other men enter the promised land first. Nice. So I'm going to start with a bit of a weird one because obviously we're going to crunch a lot of numbers in Numbers today, really, aren't we? And sort of discuss this. But one of the bits that I immediately found intense was, you're going to talk more about the plunder of the people and everything like that. But there's also a tribute to the Lord of all of these different things. So the Lord gets X of this and X of that and so on, and including X number of the people. 32 people were a tribute to the Lord. And that immediately just stuck out to me. There's no definitive answer to this, but scholars believe that these 32 people would have gone to the priests and therefore been like servants to God directly in holy work and holy business. So I just think if that is the case, that makes me really happy. Imagine you're a woman in a sort of a sinful culture. The Israelites come and decimate your sinful culture, and you end up being intimately linked to the living God and worshipping and serving him.
Yeah.
To me, that's the luckiest 32 in some sense, actually.
Yeah, no kidding. But then there are also tributes of all the sheep, the cattle, the donkeys, and they probably didn't get as lucky of a life because they're probably set aside for the altar.
They don't have as good a life, I would think.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I like that because I'd read that whole thing and I read it completely wrong. So that's cool. I'm glad you helped me with that because I was fully off the mark with that one, but that's decent. So I wanted to jump in here, Numbers 31. We were talking about when Balak and Balaam went their separate ways. What happened to Balaam? And all I said was Balaam got deaded in the end. So 31, 7 to 12. It's saying they fought against Midian. This is the Israelites. As the Lord commanded, killed every man. Among their victims were Evi, Rechem's son, a bunch of these guys, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam, son of Beor, with the sword. So that's his end. Turns out we do know what happens to him. He got deaded. Though before he got deaded, turns out he was a bit of a pickle, wasn't he, really? Because it goes on to then say how the seduction, is it right here? Where do I have it written down? I'm going to have to check my notes. 31, 13 to 18. Moses was angry with the officers. How have you let the women live? They were the ones who followed Balaam's advice and enticed the Israelites to be unfaithful to the Lord in the Pure incident so that a plague struck the Lord's people. So we were kind of looking at this because the previous story we're talking about with Balaam, he was just prophesying Jesus and speaking blessings over Israel instead of the curses that Balak was paying him to do. But then you looked into it and actually you're saying just on Bible.org, it was pretty much explaining that the seduction of the Israelites and the death of the 24,000 is at its roots the result of one man's counsel, and that one man being Balaam. So actually, whilst he did good things, he also did a lot of not so good things.
Yeah, like 24,000 people dying of a plague because of him. So that's the power of one person's sort of like advice, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
And that can link also to what we were saying, was it yesterday, about vows and taking them seriously and so on. I feel like something I want to do more of through this journey this year is to actually learn more about the more minor characters in the Bible. So, we all have heard, well, I've only been a Christian 2 years, right? But like, I know a decent amount about David and about Paul and about this guy called Jesus and so on, right? Like there's some characters that stand out and you get to know pretty well, and Moses obviously.
Yeah.
But then there are other characters like Balaam and Balak and stuff, which do have pretty big contributions to books in the Bible. And it turns out Balaam is just a bit of a wild child, a bit of a wild card, really.
Yep.
Comes from Mesopotamia. Balak's commissioning him to curse the Israelites. He's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to bless them for a laugh. You know what I mean? And then see you later. So I just love the fact that it's not as black and white as he was good or bad. It's like he's the same as pretty much anyone that ever walked the face of the earth, right? He's a blend of both.
Very true.
But this one decision he made is hideous for Israel, and it's caused all of this pain and suffering.
Absolutely. Right, we've rattled our way through half this episode, dude. We need to crack on. Little side note, I realized here that basically anyone that's fought in a battle and killed a man has touched a dead body, and therefore they would have been unclean and had to have done a sacrifice to become clean again, or by the end of the day. So that's a bit harsh on the soldiers, that they become, ceremonially unclean just by touching another body because they're the ones that killed them. It also made me think, when your own soldiers die, they would have had to have sort of distributed their dead, buried them, etc. So that again would have made them unclean. But a little thing while I've, got the salt pot, I'm going to keep talking. That's a Peter's Family reference, that, so no one else will get that. I had one of those Adam, pay grade raising moments, because it was saying how basically they took their own plunder, included with 32,000 virgin women. Now, if there were 32,000 virgin women, the number of this people was huge, absolutely massive. The number of fighting men, presumably absolutely huge. And I went back because in Numbers 30, I went forward first. In Numbers 31, 48 to 50, when they're doing basically a head count and stuff like that, it states that no one in the Israelite army died. So they fought this battle and nobody on their side died, which is a miracle in itself. But then I went back to the beginning of 31, and actually Moses said to the people, arm your men to go to war, take 1,000 from each of the tribes of Israel. So 12,000 men armed for battle. So an army of 12,000 defeated an army which within that people had 32,000 virgins that were taken, and not a single man died. That is a pagan miracle, man.
Yep. It's insane, isn't it? And, I said it reminds me of other ways that if God says you can't be touched, you can't be touched. So Exodus 11:7, all the way back in Exodus, among the Israelites, not a dog will bark at any person or animal. And this is at the time where all the plagues and firstborns of Egypt and everything are being just destroyed.
Yeah.
And yet in the Israelite quarters, there's not even a dog is barking.
True.
So it's incredible. Yeah. I wanted to just say quickly about the whole issue around plundering human beings. I mean, obviously it's probably worth the 1 minute of this, is, the people that are kept alive are effectively the people that are innocent still and that have a chance to come to God and integrate. So the Midianite women and children, the herds, the flocks, all the men are put to the sword, and all the women who have known a man or slept with a man are also put to the sword. Now, the reason that I believe that this comes from a book I read called Is God a Moral Monster by Paul Moran, I think it is those women are basically corrupted and indoctrinated into that society to a point where they probably can't be fully saved. Whereas the more innocent women, you're grimacing a bit on this.
Well, I'm going to throw it back to Lot and Lot's two daughters that then their own father to become pregnant, and they were innocent virgins. So the virgin.
That's a good point. I mean, you've just proven it's above our pay grade. If you have any thoughts on it, then feel free. But that's the way that they sort of talked about it anyway.
True.
This idea.
Yeah, that's the absolute logic for it. It's just, I guess, not everything has a perfect response.
Well, and that's the same with Moses, right? Like, it talks about how he literally murdered a guy.
Yeah.
And yet God could still use him. So you're right. Like, there isn't good answers fully to some of this stuff, or like clear answers.
Indeed.
But yeah, other than that,
Numbers 32. Maybe we'll throw in a quick something on that tomorrow, eh?
Yeah, I think so.
Sweet.
All right.
Appreciate you all. Feel free to engage with us on social media, Insta at 2 Brits and a Bible.
And please consider liking and subscribing to help spread the word of God.
Nice.